Um, why do I like hip hop music? It's it's one of those. I mean, it's cliche when everyone starts explaining what hip hop is, but it's really one of those art forms that allows you to be very open and express yourself. It's also those art forms that can allow you to lie to other people and convince them. You know what I'm saying? It's a very deceptive art form, but it's 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 open to a whole lot of things, and it loves constricting itself as well, or restricting itself as well, which is some weird paradox, and I guess I'm kind of drawn to that. But my folks, what their relation is to hip hop, they don't relate at all, you know what I'm saying? Unless I play them my stuff, and I guess they have to listen out of necessity because I'm their son, and then give me the odd, hey, that's good, son, now go get a degree, type of vibe. And also, I guess it comes from the messages that the music sometimes gives, or sometimes the messages, the subliminal messages, and the very in-your-face messages that they sometimes throw at the people, through their lyrics. And most of the stuff you'd get extremely vulgar songs that talk about women having to shake their asses and what you will do to them, and the song is just that, I can't expect my mom to even want to relate to that at any point, you know what I mean? So I can understand why she doesn't. But then at the same time, you get very clean and beautiful hip hop, like musical, where cats have live session musicians playing. And I guess my pops, on the other hand, would relate to that because he's a musician, and he would sit and listen with me, like, oh, all right, this is live, this would have been nice, that is nice, So I guess there's certain parts that they relate to, and others that they're like, oh well, we can do without.
They relate more to the musical aspect.
Yeah. I mean, I can go home and play some grungy hip hop and they'd be upset, or I can just play some like nice laid back, some beats even, which is still hip hop, and they could vibe with me, At some point, I was playing some beats at home that my man mastered, and my pops was like, "Hey, this is nice," and it was weird because it was the first time when he actually responded without me having to ask him, "Hey, what do you think of this?" So it's definitely the music that sort of attracts them, or rather, it doesn't attract them, but that they find some sort of comfort in, But the lyrics, most of the time, it's cats tend to go off at a tangent and talk about certain things, and it's sometimes a realistic depiction of what they go through, in their lives and in their hoods and whatever. But also, that's the beauty of truth. People don't want to face up to it, and sometimes it's so ugly when people tell you what the truth is. It repulses you. You're like, wait, hey, that's dirty. Don't talk like that, So that's what hip hop does. It's I guess it's a blessing and a curse, The fact that you can be open and say, hey, fuck you, and at the same time, be restricted and be, yeah. So it's yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, man. Like Cos said, hip hop you can say it's fragmented. Like there's different styles, there's different tips, as you call it. It all depends on the MC. So you get cats where they're total vulgar, like he's on that tip. Gangster, they like gangster rappers. You get gothic rappers. You get abstract rappers. So it in some way, in some point, it is vulgar, but it all depends on the artist. But in hip hop's case, the MC, Yeah, but hip hop is an, like he said as well, it's an expressive field, where you can go all out. Especially for the youth of this generation, where like we didn't have struggles like physical struggles like the past generation, like apartheid, something like that. Our struggles are social struggles, you could say that. So hip hop was a dope format for us to pick up, so we can exercise such things. Express ourselves and express our thoughts and views. Be creative in our own fields. Have something. It has its struggles, even. Like, as an MC, you have to do this, and some of us eat from it, So, yeah, it is quite. For me, I love hip hop, man. From the bottom of hip hop is what I am, Yeah, most definitely. And my parents, I could say they somehow they got used to it, I made them get used to it I made them listen to it, and they artists as well, so they could relate to, but not to everything. Because I would say the type of hip hop I have is it's self-conscious hip hop, like, so it's it's got a certain message to it, you know. So I think everyone could relate, basically, from your kids to everyone. You know, it all depends on the tip you are on, you know. Yeah, most stuff.
So, Sister, why do you think hip hop is so popular? From your point of view, what would you say?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest, one of the biggest reasons is it's youthful, isn't it?
Yeah.
At least most of the time, and
Sorry.
it's much easier for people to relate to a young music, at least in this country.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think because it's youthful.
Can you like elaborate
Trying-
on what youthful is? Can you say what
Youthful
is?
meaning that, you know, like you were saying, our struggles are different, and because we won't be chanting struggle songs, and we won't be singing Western love songs either. There are only so many things we can fall back onto as well. And television has made its impact. Yeah.
So, because of television, it wasn't for television.
No. It's just one of the many things that I'm thinking that contributed.
Okay. What do you think of the messages?
I mean, besides, in fact, television might even be a small contribution to that. The messages.
Yeah. Why do you think they're there? Why do you think?
You know, right now I relate more to 90s hip hop, and a lot of people that I know relate to that as well. So I don't know what you're talking about. Like, which one do you want me to speak about?
Tell me about the 90s hip hop. What is it that makes you relate to 90s hip hop? What is it about it that pulls you?
Yeah, because it was, you know, I don't want to say this word, but it's very conscious and unpretentious. And then, you know, it made people feel good about themselves and about being who they are. There were no fronts, there was no flossing, and there wasn't as much bling as there is now. So that was good.
Okay. What do your parents think about
I don't think they have an opinion. I don't think my parents have an opinion about it.
Cool.
Like, what I particularly like about hip hop is the DIY factor, you know what I mean? The fact that like when it started out, you could like cut an album in your bedroom by just setting up your own studio, writing your own rhymes, getting your own friend to put beats together and cut an album and make lots of money, you know what I mean? So it's like making something out of nothing, you know what I mean? Like everything in hip hop started out from nothing, you know what I mean? From graffiti art to breakdancing to MCing to DJing even, you know. But it's become like a worldwide money-making industry, and that all came from just nothing, from people's bedrooms, from people's backyards, from just trying to get away from like people's daily stresses and stuff, you know what I mean? Like people would just get together and try to get all of that, or try to get away from what's going on. I mean, if you look at America around the 60s and the 70s, that was like post-Vietnam, and there was lots of stresses and people needed to get away from that. Hence people started getting themselves together, started getting dances together. We had Kool Herc starting to play funk to the people just for free, just to get the people away from what was going on, because people were getting into crack. And same time in South Africa, you had the same situation where people were being oppressed, and people were getting into all types of things. When people get oppressed, they turn into things like alcoholism, you know what I mean? And from all of those stresses, so hip hop was sort of a way to get away from all of that, because dad would be drunk and would beat you up, dad wouldn't try and support you at school and all of that. So in order to get away from that, people would start writing rhymes and whatever, and talking about their life and their background and where they want to be, you know what I mean? And boom, you had people like blowing up and making money, you know what I mean, from just the love of something that was nothing, you know what I mean? And that's the beauty of it, you know, it's infinite, you know what I mean? Like as much as what is sold now is a diluted version of what it really started out to be, you know what I mean? But that's what happens with every culture, you know what I mean? Like popular culture will always, or rather like the corporate companies and stuff will always try and catch on to what the youth is getting into, because that's where the money is. So just like everything, skateboarding, graffiti art, whatever, it always gets raped and sold as something less of what it really is. But beyond that, there'll always be something that's happening, you know what I mean?
The prevalence of, like, for instance, the negative messages is something that is pushed by the corporate companies to, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, talking about like being positive, being healthy and all of that is boring to the people, you know what I mean? People want to hear about people shooting each other. That's what they want to hear. Unfortunately, that's what the world is being sold, you know what I mean? You look at TV, that's what's being sold, and radio, that's what's being sold, you know? Meanwhile, there's people talking about being vegetarian, there's people talking about taking care of yourself, there's people talking about getting yourselves together, getting active in your neighborhood, getting away from drugs, you know what I mean? Stopping drinking and all of that. But you'll still have the negative energy that will always try and push the positive, you know what I mean? And it does not necessarily mean that it's bad either, you know, because it helps one choose, you know what I mean? Like, do you want to be with that other guy or do you want to be with the guy that, and it helps you grow as a person as well, because without that vibe, you wouldn't understand what you really like, you know what I mean? From hearing that, from hearing 50 Cent, I can decide that, no, I don't want to hear 50 Cent, I want to hear someone else, you know what I mean? So it does not necessarily mean it's bad as well, it just gives people options to choose where they want to be. If you want to chase money, you can chase money, but you can also chase money with positive stuff, you know? Like, you can do something positive. I mean, people make money off graffiti art, people make money off, KRS makes money from selling his records and making them himself, you know what I mean? J-Roo does the same thing. A lot of people I know have made a living, and some people even develop careers, like proper careers, and they feed their families out of pushing what they really love. So it's not always the end of the tunnel, you know. It just helps people be stronger. It helps people understand themselves more. And I mean, the pop culture will always be there. It's been there since day one, you know what I mean? Like, everything has been sold like that, from jazz to hip-hop to drum and bass to whatever, you know what I mean? Funk was diluted and turned into disco, you know, and disco was sold and funk died. But funk was still ill, and there were still people making funk. Even today, you still find people making funk, you know what I mean? So it's all relative, you know, that's basically all I can say.